You're listening to the Business and Life Podcast, where 7 days a week, proven entrepreneurs share their success stories, failures, and give you true value on how you can build a great business and an awesome life. With your host, Mike Olivas.
Hey guys, I'm usually coming in hot, but today I think I need to come in real. My 13-year-old national group travel company was pretty much close to shutting down. I've somehow turned a negative into a positive, but it took about a week straight worth of strategy since all this has gone down. My team and I put together an 11-series best of episode, which I call Coping with COVID in Business and Life. Business owners and employees are going through dire times right now. They're losing their jobs and shutting down their business. I know it firsthand because I recently had to let go of the majority of my employees. A 13-year-old company broken down in a matter of days. I'll rebuild it and I'll make it better and I'll make it stronger. And I want to make all of you just as optimistic as I am. So in a world of nothing but negative news and drama right now, and being forced to do nothing but take in all of this terrible content on the news, my team and I focused all of our attention to bring you the stories of how others have overcome rock bottom, to show you that with great obstacles and challenges come great opportunities. This special series is the collection of the answers of my guest of one of the most powerful questions that I ask day in and day out, 7 days per week on my show. That question is simple. Give me a time where you've hit rock bottom and were able to overcome that disaster. Listen to these stories. Realize that it's a part of the journey and understand that you are not alone. And rolling up your sleeves is nothing new to you. Listen, learn, and get to work. You got this, Life Nation. Now go get it done.
I was at one point $250,000 in personal debt, and was already beginning to have conversations with bankruptcy lawyers, and just thinking about, maybe I'm just going to have to cut my ties here and start again, because I didn't know how I was going to make my next payment. And I had always read stories about ordinary people who had done extraordinary things. And one thread that seemed to be in almost all their stories was a story that was just like the one I was experiencing, where they'd come to the end of their rope and they're like, Oh my God, I'm done. And in that story, one thing that you always found that they would do is that they would have a conversation with themselves where like they literally became their own greatest cheerleader in that moment.
Sure.
And they were just, it was like, and you know this, I'm sure, you have that dark moment where you're either laying in bed or you're in the shower or you're driving your car and you're like, holy shit.
Yep.
And that's when you get tough with yourself. You look in the mirror and you say, it's on, and you have to make this happen right now. No ifs, ands, or buts. And all of a sudden you get you tap into this energy that you never even knew existed. And day by day, you start scraping yourself out of that rock bottom scenario. And for me, I remember having that one day where I was about to go off on a little vacation with my partner at that time. And her and I were sitting around the dinner table. We were having an early Christmas dinner with my family. And my brother, who was the last guy I owed money to, and I was giving him a $500 payment every single month. But here I am about to go on this really great epic vacation. I'm thinking, what does he think? I owe him, I owe him $22,000.
Yeah.
So I said to my wife, hey, by the way, here's your $500 I owe you for this month. And I said, as a little Christmas present, here's another $500. And he's like, oh, wow, thanks a lot, man. But anyways, I let the dinner go by. And at the end of the dinner, I pulled out a certified check for $20,000. I go, oh, and here's the rest of the money I owe you. Nice. I said, there's no way I can go on this trip and not have you paid off. And so he was the last of the $250,000, and I was done, and I had a lot of fun on that trip.
Early on in the process, I couldn't even tell you exactly. I was struggling to really build out the platform. It wasn't my forte. And I just remember feeling just in a fog, and I was just really frustrated and discouraged. And I was about to go on to a podcast. Ironically, it's funny. It's coming to me right now. And I was just so frustrated. I thought I'm going to just fall apart right here. And so I looked at the clock. I remember I looked at the clock. I looked at my watch, and I was like, okay, you've got 7 minutes to fall apart. And then you've got 4 minutes to pull yourself back together. And I just sat down in the corner of my kitchen, and I was like, let it all go. 7 minutes, clocked myself. And then it was like, okay, you got 4 minutes now, wipe your face off, girl, get it together, go on this podcast. So, obviously that was the emotion and the physicality of it. So I think there's management of all of these different things. There are other stories where, whether it's finances that are tight, whether it's, relationships that get pinched, or, that part, it's like the business could be really great. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I just totally pissed somebody off over here, and then you're like, man, then you gotta, I say you gotta deal with that. Like, but that is life. Right. And
That's right.
So I think just, acknowledging that there's those three components. There's like the facts of what is actually happening. And most of the time we blow things out of proportion.
Right.
And then there's the emotion of, what we're going through, and if we're going to wind it up in our brain and make it worse, or like calm it down. And then there's the, the physical outlay of it.
There's definitely been some months, when I was kind of earlier on in the business, when I definitely didn't have, proper systems set up that would constantly have leads come to me. There were definitely some of those feast or famine periods, which I think any service business owner can relate to. 1 month, I was making a ton of money. I was killing it. I was like looking at like Teslas and BMWs. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be so rich. And then the next month, I was thinking about like, oh, do I have to like cancel my gym membership? Am I going to be able to like afford groceries? All of this sorts of stuff. And it all comes with a learning lesson. It's like, if I didn't go through these periods, then I would have never, been inspired to learn more and to actually set up proper marketing for my own business, which is kind of ironic. But yeah, I think that was probably like, one of the biggest problems that I had, at least.
Hey guys, Michael Levis here. I've cut my coaching rates nearly in half, and I've added some time to my daily calendar to help you, our listeners, with your business in this time of need. If you were let go, or if you finally feel like in the midst of all this, you've been motivated to finally start your own company, let's talk about my affordable startup advising package that will give you from idea to revenues fast. If you are trying to simply keep your company alive after this terrible epidemic, I will give you some great valuable tactics on how I did it, on how to not just let employees go or shut down shop. Let me help you keep your businesses alive and thriving. I can't help everyone, but you won't know if I can help you or not until you schedule a quick 20-minute call at michaellevis.com/coaching.
I was just traveling in Europe for 2 months, and I went on a bit of a following my intuition. My heart pulled me that way. And I knew that while I was there, new things would be created and I would teach in time, but I wasn't exactly sure where. And when I dropped down, it was those spaces of just kind of being like, what did I just do? What am I here? And it's really that space of the unknown, being like, I just left the security of where I have my business and where I do events regularly. And it was really just having to go into like, I'm here, and really applying the latest terminology that I'm using within myself. And I invite anyone listening to this, is just applying the golden touch to everything. No matter where I am, no matter what I have, I'm going to add the golden touch and I'm going to turn it to gold. Really allowing like those opportunities. Everything is an opportunity to make something. And so I was really in a fear of like, I don't know exactly where I'm staying, how I'm flowing. The entire trip for 2 months was led by intuition, no plans. But I came back with amazing new connections. I came back with a retreat coming up later next year in an amazing space, taught in new places, so like just really applying this golden touch mindset that came through allow me to rise above the fear of, I don't know why I'm going here. I just know deep in my calling that it's time to go and ride. Yeah.
I've had to part ways with a number of friends that were friends before they joined our businesses. Yeah. And that was a challenge. I mean, I think when you're super young and you're sort of figuring out how does the company work, what are people going to do? How are they going to fit into their roles? How are you going as a company to sustain an environment? You don't really know anything when you're 23, 24, 25 building. And I had friends that wanted to come and join, and they were well-intentioned. And I would like to think I was well-intentioned in letting them come and join. Ultimately, I've lost a handful of friendships that you probably won't rekindle those friendships, because I think life sort of moves on. But you have to sort of look at it and say, it was probably for the best. And ultimately the business had to make the business decision. So I think losing friendships and relationships that pre-existed the business have been tough. The second is early days, we weren't diversified with the multiple companies, and now there's a staff of like 40 some odd people across the 3 businesses. Early days, it was a couple of guys with some laptops in small spaces. We weren't diversified, so we would be very tied to income and revenue from specific opportunities. And we had one project in particular that was sort of all eggs in one basket scenario, and that basket tipped over, and we were left sort of in a position where a full quarter of revenue disappeared and went poof, and we hadn't been diversified broadly at our base. That really, and then we were 25 years old. Yeah. And so that led us to realize, okay, we need to be a heck of a lot smarter. We need to have a lot of irons and a lot of different fires. And we ultimately need to be, I know you don't want to try and be all things to everyone, but we need to be multiple things to this ecosystem, because ultimately you sort of look at what Amazon is. It's ultimately a business with a tremendous number of funnels that feed a revenue machine. And we sort of look at this business and say, we have found ways to sell multiple services and multiple opportunities to the same client, oftentimes on the same projects. And that's been really important. And I think that was one of those moments at 25 years old that we sort of said, there's no money going to be coming in for the next few months unless we make some drastic changes to the business. And in retrospect, it was probably one of the best things that could have happened to us.
Sure.
It made us a lot smarter. It made us much better business owners. And then the last big entrepreneurial journey I'll say is we raised money from a public finance company.
Yeah.
And then we closed a $30 million credit facility on top of it. That broke down the relationships internally amongst us as team members, because you're dealing now with institutional money. You're dealing with the expectations of very sophisticated investors. And we founded Buffalo 8 from a table in a college apartment. And it's an amazing thing, and it's an amazing story to have. But the stress that it put you through to get the business into an investable shape was really hard. And then closing that transaction, because ultimately, unless you're Facebook or Amazon or Google or Apple, you really don't have leverage, right? There's always a bigger dog, especially when it comes to the world of financing. And there are a lot of financiers that are scared of hearing the word film finance or media finance. And so it became critical for us to build a brand and a culture that was, one, diversified, two, driven way more about we are professional finance minded first, then we are creatively entertainment minded second. And that dual existence was really difficult when we were out there raising capital internally as a management team, because you need the investment bankers and the CFO minded folks running this company here at Bondit, but you also need the other side of that coin. And so that was that was 2 years of our life, raising and closing that deal. And then I've been in the fundraising business since I was 21 years old. And I'm 31 now. I haven't stopped having to be in that mode of constantly raising capital.
Life Nation, you got to remember that in order for things to change, you must change. And in order for things to get better, you must get better. You just got better by hanging out with me, Michael Libas, and the Business and Life Nation. So come back tomorrow, because I'm here dropping sound bombs 7 days a week, baby. If you'd like to subscribe, please do, so you can take action and execute. See you tomorrow.